Good morning. Now, I had just realized I forgot to show you my special friend. So today, he's going to be helping me out. I'm going to have to make the camera a little bit lower, because he's a little bit lower. All right, this is Mr. Brownie. Brownie, say hi. Stop being so shy, mister. See, his claws is kind of digging right into my hand there. Now, it's a nice day, so I can take Brownie outside today. But Brownie, he is so good. Every time I try to pick him up, he comes right to me. And he knows that I have to pet him first, and then he'll let me pick him up. But the other guinea pigs, well, they just run away from my hand, and it makes it very hard and tricky to pick them up. But Brownie sure does a great job. Brownie is kind of like my Tabby. Brownie makes me feel good. He doesn't know any better. He's a good boy. Oh, excuse me, he's a good girl. Well, today, we're going to continue on Mr. Putter and Tabby. Can't see my face because we're staring at Brownie. Okay. Now there's going to be some new changes in the story. So let's just recap. The first, Mr. Putter eats too many pineapple jelly rolls. We've all ate too much food and gotten a stomachache. We know what that feels like. Hey, you talking? And next, they go for a walk. He can't sleep. All right, that's important. We have to add that to the first part too. And then the next part is that he can't sleep. He goes for a walk as a strategy. Take his mind off it and to use some time to digest his food, so maybe he'll be able to feel better enough to go back to sleep. Let's move on, okay? So the next part of the story, they looked at the sky. And they didn't have to go so far. Let's take a look at this. They looked at the sky. They looked at the yellow lights in the houses. They looked at the sitting windows. Oh, I have to reread that. I read that incorrectly. Brownie, it's not easy holding you and reading. They looked at cats sitting in windows, looking back at them. So if I didn't go back and reread that, I would have missed a pretty important part of this. So it's important, if you don't understand something, to go back and reread it, that's all. And when, at last, they circled back home, they stopped in front of Mrs. Teaberry's house. Mrs. Teaberry and Zeke, her dog, were on the front lawn. Mrs. Teaberry, what are you doing up? Asked Mr. Putter. So Mrs. Teaberry's up, hanging around. It's kind of cool. Oh, wow. He's going to use up some more of his time to help his stomach feel better. Wow, let's check it out. Zeke had a grumbling stomach. Okay, so who has the same problem? Mr. Putter and Zeke, Mrs. Teaberry's dog. Because, and you can tell from this picture, look at the silly picture. Look at the dog laying. Sorry, Brady. Look at the dog laying on the ground. Oh my goodness, he got a stomachache like I'd never seen before. And there's Miss Teaberry talking. They're sitting in chairs on the front lawn. He ate too many jelly rolls and we can't sleep. Zeke! Mr. Putter and Tabby were delighted. They sat on the lawn with Mrs. Teaberry and Zeke. So they all had a problem. They thought about getting together and talking and making themselves feel better. Mr. Putter's stomach and Zeke's stomach talked to each other, while Mr. Putter and Mrs. Teaberry talked to each other. So their stomachs were talking to each other. Were they really talking back and forth? No, that's just a symbol, and that's just showing us that they kept hearing their stomachs. That's all. It doesn't mean. Okay, so let's move on. They were delighted. That means they're really happy to see them and spend time with them. Mr. Putter's stomach and Zeke's stomach talked to each other while Mr. Putter and Mrs. Teaberry talked to each other. They told stories in the moonlight. They told secrets. They made each other laugh. That's what friends do. How do you know that Mrs. Teaberry and Mr. Putter are becoming friends? I mean, what are friends all about? What do friends do? Well, they're doing things that good friends do together, like telling stories and secrets and making each other laugh. Friends are good to each other. That's what friends are for. They're respectful. They treat each other kind, and they talk nice to each other. They're not mean. Friends don't tease. Friends don't use their hands. Friends learn how to work things out. And you know what? Sometimes friends argue. I've argued with my friends before. I don't like to do that, but if I feel really differently and I feel like something wrong is happening, I like speaking up and telling everybody how I feel. And that might make people feel uncomfortable. So friends can be really wonderful things to have in your life. And it looks like Mr. Putter and Mrs. Teaberry are forming a nice friendship. They just feel like they belong, and they just treat each other so nicely. They're sharing the chairs. They're taking turns in conversation, and that's what friends do. If I had a friend that talked to me all the time and he wouldn't listen to what I said, well, I wouldn't want to be his friend, because I like people that listen to my ideas and how I feel. And sometimes if we feel the same way about something, like watching Scooby-Doo, if I have a friend that likes watching Scooby-Doo, I love watching Scooby-Doo. So that would be something that we have in common. And sometimes friends have things in common. Let's talk about the plot sequencing chart. What do you think, Brownie? What are we going to add to this last plot sequence? So let's discuss what happens after they finish their walk. Where do they end up? Well, let's talk about that. Mr. Putter and Tabby finish their walk and find who? What people? What animals? Find Mrs. Teaberry and Zeke outside, and they begin to tell stories. So that's what we can add to the third section of our plot sequencing chart. Mr. Putter and Tabby finish their walk, and they find Mrs. Teaberry and Zeke outside. They tell stories. So that's a really nice thing, what they're doing. He's having a nice conversation with her while she's talking to him, and they're taking turns sharing stories. He's forgetting about his stomach when he's hearing all these wonderful stories. Now tomorrow we will fill in the final, or what it says as last, part of our plot sequencing chart. And we're about to sign off. Brownie, can you say goodbye? Say goodbye. Bye-bye, everybody. I'll see you next time. All right, press the button. Press stop. Press it with the paw.